In this video today, we are going to learn the process of fertilization. The process of female fertilization takes place in the body of a woman, but the whole process begins by a couple having intercourse. So fertilization takes place, but we have to understand some key things which are really very important in female fertilization or in the process of fertilization of a female egg. So what is happening is that when you look at this reproductive system, this is basically an image of the reproductive system. We shall understand that this is what we call the ovary. Now, on a normal ovary, there are small egg-like structures. These are called follicles or egg follicles. Specifically, these follicles contain egg cells, or they contain the eggs of a woman, which normally are very important in the whole process of fertilization. So what happens is that during the process of ovulation is basically the release of the egg. You realize that one follicle bursts. It bursts open and then it releases an egg. This egg that is released on the follicle, it is really a mature egg. It's also known as a Graafian follicle, but in this process we can call it a secondary oocyte. When a secondary oocyte or a mature egg is released, it comes and it is actually absorbed by finger-like projections. These are also known as fimbriae. Now these absorb this egg, and this egg remains around here for a little while. Normally it lasts for 12 to 24 hours. The main reason is that during this whole process of ovulation, this is when the male sperm is expected to come in and then rupture the egg and then have the whole process of fertilization taking place. So this is very important for us to take note, because when we realize that the process of ovulation has taken place, or when we understand the whole time when ovulation takes place, then getting pregnant becomes very, very easy. So what happens is that when this egg is released and it stays around this part is called the ampulla. It stays here for 12 to 24 hours. So when we have the sperms coming in after you've been with your partner, and the sperms come in having sex, when one sperm comes in and then it knocks on the wall of the egg, there's going to be one lucky sperm that will enter in, and then when it enters in, it will cause what we call the whole process of fertilization will take place. And when fertilization has taken place in this part, this egg that is now fertilized, also known as the zygote, moves downwards, or it moves backwards, and the end destination is on the uterine lining. But as it is moving, it undergoes changes. It undergoes division, cell division, and specifically the cell division actually takes place rapidly. And what happens is that it first of all divides into two, and then it goes on dividing, forming a round-like structure. And this round-like structure, also known as the morula, goes downwards. It continues in the tube, and that's why we need to understand this process very well. When you have ever done some tests, for example, the HSG, or also known as the hysterosalpingogram, this is an examination, or it is a test whereby your tubes are examined for maybe blockage or even adhesions. So what happens is that whenever you do that HSG test and they tell you that your tubes are blocked, or you have adhesions, or your tubes are having issues, normally the issues do happen around here. And that's why in a woman who has blocked fallopian tubes, it gets very difficult to get pregnant. The main reason is that inside a female tube, inside your fallopian tube, there are hair-like structures also known as cilia, and it is actually comparable to these hair-like structures which are in your nostrils. So this hair helps to push it helps to push this egg through this tube, and that's why whenever you do those tests and they tell you that you have blocked fallopian tubes, normally the egg may not be able to move, and actually there are increased chances of ectopic pregnancies, or the egg remaining in here in your tubes and then fertilization or growth taking place in the tubes. So once assuming that your tubes are not blocked, you don't have adhesions, you don't have any issues in your tubes, this egg that is fertilized, now it is being called a blastocyst. Remember, at first it was dividing into two. It divided, it formed a ball-like structure, and it was called the morula. Now it is being called a blastocyst. It is called a blastocyst because at this point it is actually having this thickened part which is going to actually develop into what we call the decidua. The decidua is that part that is going to form the placenta down here in your uterus as the baby is growing. So remember, the placenta is very important. We shall talk about it when we reach there, but remember, now we have our cell. It is now called the blastocyst. It has been moving throughout this distance, and then now it is coming down. So as it is dropping down in this corner here, there are women actually who get pregnant. We work on them every now and then. We do obstetric scans, but you realize that the pregnancy or the fertilized egg can decide to implant or to attach here in the upper part, in this upper junction of your uterine lining. Normally this can be seen on ultrasound, but still you don't need to worry about this. This can always be managed by your doctors, by your gynecologists. Normally the advice is that we can do what we call watch and wait. It can easily drop downwards. We tell you not to overwork and reduce carrying heavy things. We shall talk about that later. So we have the fertilized egg that has come in, and it has attached itself onto the uterine lining, also known as the endometrium. So when this egg, remember, it came in and then it is now attached on the uterine lining. When it attaches itself on the uterine lining, normally at this stage it begins doing what we call burrowing. Burrowing is specifically digging. Imagine you're in the garden and you're digging, for those of us who do digging. So when it is digging onto your uterine wall, what happens is that at first, before implantation, there were blood vessels on this wall. So as this egg came in and then it started burrowing or digging onto your uterine wall, what happened is that there are blood vessels which will rupture. This rupture of the blood vessels is what we call lacunae formation, or there will be actually bleeding taking place. The bleeding is normally what we call the implantation bleeding. It happens or it occurs in form of spots. You may get this in the morning on your knicker after you've missed your periods. Normally you don't need to worry about that. All you need to do is go ahead, do some simple tests like the urine analysis test, and have also an obstetric ultrasound scan just to make sure that the implantation or the attachment of the fertilized egg is in the right place. So the egg that was fertilized has attached itself onto the uterine wall, and now it is growing. So as it is growing, it grows into what we call an embryo, and normally at 8 weeks, what happens is that at 8 weeks, we are expected to see an embryo that is forming. And then the other thing, an embryo is that earliest form of the baby. So the embryo, as the embryo is forming, there are features that will begin to develop. For example, the baby's spinal cord will begin developing, and then of course the brain, and then normally what will happen is that we shall see what we call cardiac flickers, or there will be a rapid heartbeat which will be seen on ultrasound. And by the way, as a word of advice, as a word of caution, if you do an ultrasound scan, at 8 weeks, and inside this gestational sac or inside the sac of the baby, they realize that there's no live embryo at 8 weeks, 9 weeks, or even at 10 weeks. Normally we call that a blighted ovum or an embryonic pregnancy. It is basically a pregnancy that has failed to grow. We've made videos about this. You can go and check in our video library. I've made videos about an embryonic pregnancy, the signs, and then everything about that. Please feel free to go and watch those videos so that when you have any other questions, you can ask me. Today we are talking about blighted ovum. So what happens is that the embryo begins growing and it increases. As it is increasing, there's going to be formation of what we call amniotic fluid. The amniotic fluid, or the amnion, is the fluid the baby will be growing in. And then the futures, remember we talked about this part, also known as the deciduum basilis, or the part where the placenta is going to be forming. It will actually it will grow into what we call the trophoblastic tissue, or the syncytial trophoblastic part, but we shall not go into those details. What we need to understand is that after implantation has taken place, there's going to be formation of the placenta on the downer part. The placenta is that part that will be used by the growing baby, by our growing baby, for breathing, that basically for respiration, and then it will be also used for excretion. The other thing is that it will be used for hormonal for supply of hormones and other nutrients to the baby. And that's why we always advise that when a woman is pregnant, she should manage, or she should not be stressed so much. The main reason is that when a woman is pregnant and she's so stressed, or she's trying to get pregnant but she's so stressed, there's a hormone known as cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It can easily come and destabilize the pregnancy that is growing, and the end result is maybe actually a miscarriage. So today we have been talking about fertilization, and we have said that the whole process of fertilization, we've tried to simplify it. We've not made it very detailed, but we've tried to simplify it. We are doing what we call a recap. We've said that we need to understand the reproductive system of a woman, and we have said that the whole of this is the uterus, and then this is the masticular layer of your uterus, and it has what we call, it is called the myometrium, and then the inner layer is what we call the endometrium. So when an ovary containing egg follicles bursts, or during the process of ovulation, when a mature egg bursts in here, it comes and it is absorbed by this part which is called the fimbria, and it has what we call the finger-like projections. They absorb the egg. Yes, so, and this egg normally is taken into, and the whole process happens when division takes place and then implantation takes place. Thanks a lot for attending today's lesson. Share with me in the comments what you've learned. Please ask me all your questions. I will answer all your questions. Thanks a lot, and may God bless us all. Please remember to subscribe. Gerald Massa, the Health Educator, is the name of the channel. You can also connect with me on my WhatsApp. It is +256 701 797876. That is +256 701 797876. Please remember to subscribe so that you can see new videos we put out every day, and also so that we can continue putting out many videos. May God bless and protect us all, and see you in my next video. Bye-bye. Thank you, my friend, for attending today's lesson. I hope you have learned something, and please, if you have any questions in regards to what we've just discussed, leave your questions in the comments. Ask me your questions. I will answer all your questions. On this channel, Gerald Massa, the Health Educator, I talk about women's health. Have yourself a fantastic and healthy day, and may God bless us all. Bye-bye.